Hey guys, and welcome to the Leftover Culture Review, and welcome to a very special kind of torture I'm calling Sega's Art Alive. It is for anyone who doesn't know, I've talked a little bit about Sega's Art Alive here on the program, and this isn't the first time I'm doing a piece of art in it. But here we go again. It is an exclusive Sega Mega Drive title released in 1991 by Sega of America. And it is basically MS Paint, but for a Sega. So there's not like a whole lot of features, functionality, and using a Mega Drive controller to do drawing with is already a bit of a challenge in of itself. So essentially what this video is, and what you guys can expect at home, is me moving a mouse very slowly around the screen while I make something in Sega's Art Alive. So I kind of had this idea when I was looking at gameplay footage for my review of Sega's Art Alive, because it's nice to see what other people were doing with the program. And what I did notice was that there wasn't many people doing a whole lot with this program. And I don't blame them, because after doing a couple of pictures in it, it's frustrating, and there is no way to save what you're doing, and it takes a long time, and again, you don't really have a fantastic tool set on a system like a Mega Drive. But for a lot of people, these sort of programs would have been like their first introduction to digital art. And I know for myself, I used MS Paint a whole heap, and I never made something that I really loved. But it's kind of fun going back to a program like Sega's Art Alive after having access to things like iPads and Apple Pencils and Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator, and having all these like fantastic digital design tools available. And then, yeah, coming back to something like this where you do feel limited. And I'm also mindful that you can't just keep working on these images. Like once you start, you only have until you turn the console off to finish something. So there's like that built-in time constraint, because I'm not leaving this like on overnight to work on tomorrow just to turn it off again. So everything that I'm making, obviously I'm recording it on the through a screen recorder as well, so that I've got a copy of it, a copy to share online. The crazy idea I had was to turn this into like an online gallery or an online exhibition where you can come and check out the work, see how it was put together, maybe have time lapses of how it came together, so that everyone can appreciate the effort that went into it, but also have access to download, even like have printed on merch, like their very own pieces of art designed and produced exclusively on a Sega Mega Drive. So this piece that I'm doing now, I've called it Beheaded. It's a concept that I've played with before, just personally by myself, of this. It's like a soda can that has the pop top, just like the ring pull, pulled off it. And the dog is sitting on the cables. Winnie, off the cables, come on. You monkey. You made it all black and white. Sorry guys, technical issues. Sorry guys, technical issues. They say never work with children and animals. So I thought if I threw her in the scene, then at least she's not sitting on the cables that connect the laptop to the Mega Drive. I don't like the bottom of that can. So what I'm really struggling with at the moment is obviously when you draw pencil to paper or even Apple Pencil to tablet, I just find it so much easier to get the line right. But with something like Art Alive or the Mega Drive, just like getting the lines exactly where you want them has been really challenging. So the can's got like a nice rounded bottom that sort of mimics the top. And then we might have like a big crinkle up through there. Kind of like maybe a bike's run over it. I will also say, like, normally when I do illustrations and drawings, when you have the black and white version down, you know how the picture's going to be, you know how good it's going to look, you're confident. But I have noticed with Sega's Art Alive that I never really feel great about the pictures that I put together here, or I haven't felt very good about many of the pictures I put together here until I'm able to get down the color for it. Dog it. Because color plays a massive role in an application like this where you just don't have a whole like great suite of tools to use. At least for me anyway, and the stuff that I'm putting together here. Well, that looks like one very beaten up can of drink. I'm still not really loving the bottom here though. I wonder if I do use the eraser tool instead of the pencil tool, will I get... And obviously what I'm really missing in an application like this is the ability to have some layers. Being able to have like a different layer for each piece of the drawing would make it really easy to go back and fix bits that I don't like. So the undo tool also deletes everything that you used the previous tool for. So if you were just using the pencil tool and you didn't like what you did, but you had lots of lines in it, it's just going to delete everything that you used that pencil tool for, which isn't always ideal and sometimes will catch you by surprise. But we have our can and we have our metal ring. So the idea behind this picture is that this can has been beheaded. It's just like an object you'd find laying on the ground. It's been discarded. It's, you know, doesn't have any value except 10 cents if you live in South Australia or Western Australia, I think, where you can recycle cans. But, dear. Yeah, it's just a piece of garbage. It's been tossed away, but it's had like this incredible battle. It's gone through hell and back again, and at the end of it all, it's been beheaded by losing its pull tab. So it kind of came about just thinking about people's struggles, I guess, and putting things into perspective that we don't always know what something or someone is feeling. And that even really small things can be really important, which is like something I've been learning a lot about in the last couple of years, is just understanding what might not seem like a big deal to someone might mean the world to someone else. All right. I might go back to that green. And I also love how like a simple thing like a dirty old can on the ground that's been damaged can have like that sort of meaning for me. So I just kind of wanted to explore it. So it's one of those pictures that I have like drawn, I don't like that, on the iPad as well. But I wanted to explore it in Sega's Art Alive. So obviously anything to do with fine detail is going to be like a testament to your patience. But I think if anything in this video, I'm using way more tools than I normally would. Alright, so we've got like a pretty busted up looking can there. I'm going to go ahead and add some really thick shadows. In the last like 2-3 years, I've really enjoyed playing with the idea of, yeah, just like really thick black shadows to add contrast. Makes the picture feel a bit more dramatic. And it also creates like that focal point within the composition, like your eye gets drawn up, well, your eye gets directed to the red, and then it follows through on this black shadow path that I'm about to create. Because the crux of the image really is going to be that pull tab that I was talking about. So this is like the part of the can that has been beheaded. Lovely. A beheaded can. So the next challenge that we are going to face is just adding a little bit more detail into the composition here. Like I've said, Sega's Art Alive is not really great for fine detail when you're working in these kind of limitations, but I do get a kick out of just being able to do what you can do, essentially. So we're just going to do our best and see what comes out. What I want to add is like a little bit of a curb, which is a nice easy straight line. And I don't want to intersect too much with the black, but I want it to be an easy paint drop for me to add this curb in. Because we want this guy pretty much lying on the street. Like that. Well, not exactly like that. We've got also a darker grey. Another thing with, obviously, Art Alive is that you need to sort of pick your palette. There's a couple of different palettes to pick from. The issue being that once you've picked your palette, if you change palettes to pick a different colour, it's going to change all the colours in the picture. You can only have, what is it? 4, 8, 12, 16 colors and 4 patterns. So talking about limitations, your picture has to use a maximum of 16 colors, and you kind of just have to pick the palette that has the most colors that you can use for your picture. So what I've kind of accidentally done here is ruin the perspective of the can by having the curve straight. I might need to give it a bit of a curve. What I might do is leave that line in and use it to create like a bit of a crack maybe through the pavement. And you know, the perspective isn't like a core focus of mine when I'm putting together this sort of stuff. I'm interested in the composition and how the colors look together and making sure that the focal point in the picture is clear. If the curb is jutting off at a bit of a weird angle, I'm not going to get... Oh, what have I done that for? I pressed A instead of B. If the curb is at a bit of a weird angle, I'm not going to get too upset about that. And after I've added a bit more of this background detail, the next step is really going to be finishing off the can, because it's bright and it pops out, but I would love to have a little bit of highlight on it. So with some of these, a lot of the illustrations that I've been working on, I've really just enjoyed adding some simple line highlights. And I think in an application like Art Alive, it just makes a lot of sense to take that sort of simple approach. We're not blending colors too much. We're not getting too crazy in that respect. We're kind of trying to use the strengths of the application with things like popping colors and things that we can easily fill in with paint buckets. But if any of you guys want to play along at home and want to create some of your own pieces in Art Alive, I would absolutely love to see what you come up with as well, because yeah, I'm a little bit fascinated by this whole program, and that's kind of why I wanted to do an exhibition, like going over a whole bunch of different drawings made in this and putting them all together for people to see. I think it'd be a really interesting collection, but in saying that, I also think it'd be really interesting just to see what other people can come up with in this application. Maybe it shouldn't just be red either. I might chuck some yellow in there as like a little bit of branding on this mystery can of soda that's very red and looks a lot like Coke but isn't Coke. A lot of the time if I do draw cans of soda, I call it fizz. I think it's just because it sounds really generic, but I'm sure there's a drink out there called fizz. Not that I really want to tackle trying to do type on Sega's Art Alive. There is like a way to add text, but they only give you the one font. I'm sure you could actually draw your own, but yeah, again, I'm just not... I struggle enough adding text into my own pictures with all the great tools that I have available, so I'm not going to torture myself further by trying to do that here today. And then I wonder if we go back to the grass for a second. And just try and add not too much grass, because I don't want to be like here all night. Again, I'm trying to keep like the drawings that I do in this program to like under an hour or so. But maybe we can just add like a couple of strands. This might be a bit crazy, but I wonder if the spray paint tool... Nah. What the hell happened there? I really don't like that. Luckily the undo is working for me. I'm trying to press AA really quickly so that the spray doesn't just go continue. Because I don't mind that sort of speckliness to it. I might even do it to the street. Okay, we've added some very fine details there. The last thing that's really bugging me, and I'm not going to keep you guys here all night, I'm just going to quickly add the base of the can in. Again, it's not the right width. I kind of don't want to draw too much attention to it, which is why I didn't use much of that black line for it, but I feel like it's just getting lost now in the background and everything else happening in the picture. And since we have this big thick shadow, I might try and give the shadow a bit of depth creeping onto the can. And I'm also not absolutely loving how it juts out at the bottom here either. Alright, and you guys can see how I could probably be here all night working on a cola can that's been absolutely beheaded. But for anyone who fell asleep, I do really appreciate you guys tuning in and checking out me pulling together some pieces of art designed, produced, put together absolutely only using a Sega Mega Drive and some screen recording software. Alright guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this very special, long, torturous episode where I literally drew a can lying on the ground. But for anyone who did like fall asleep or just wants a bit of a recap, I call this Beheaded, and it is the picture of a soda can that has been damaged, discarded, and ultimately its ring tab has been pulled off, making it incomplete. It's been beheaded. And it is kind of a metaphor for how we all go through different challenges. For some people, they may be like really massive, but for anyone else, they might not look like such a big deal. Essentially, you probably wouldn't look twice at a piece of rubbish on the ground unless you were going to pick it up, because I know you guys who watch this channel are absolute legends. But for that cola can or that soda can, it's like a whole world, and it's been, pulled apart and beheaded. So that's kind of the idea, and I do love that. Like, Sega's Art Alive doesn't have a whole lot of drawing features, so you really have to sort of come to it with a concept that you want to explore. And the simple pictures just obviously work best unless you want to spend hours finessing and not using layers. But like I said, this is part of a bigger project where I'm going to be pulling all these different pieces of art and illustration together that were made using Sega's Art Alive original Mega Drive artwork, available to look through, download, and yeah, it'll all be available over on the leftoverculturereview.com. So if you're liking how this stuff is shaping up, please head over there now to check it out. I really appreciate you guys tuning in and putting up with this. You just watched me slowly move a mouse around. I know I made that joke, but I'm going to make it again because that's essentially what I did, was slowly move around a cursor. So I really appreciate you guys hanging around for that. And I can't wait to have you back to bore you to tears once again, right here on the Leftover Culture Review. Cheers, guys.